The Taliban say they won't extend the deadline for Western forces to leave Afghanistan at the end of the month. Meanwhile, the US says 16,000 people have been evacuated from Kabul in the past 24 hours. More than 20 people have been killed by flash floods in the US state of Tennessee, and many more are missing. It comes as Tropical Storm Henri also made landfall on the US East Coast on Sunday. The International Monetary Fund is distributing $650 billion worth of financial assets to its member countries to help them deal with the coronavirus pandemic. It's the largest allocation of its kind ever made. And the Chinese government recorded no new local COVID-19 infections on Monday, suggesting they have brought recent outbreaks under control. It comes several weeks after a fresh outbreak in Nanjing spread to other towns and cities.
In Afghanistan, as evacuations continue at the international airport in Kabul, an early morning firefight outside the airport kills an Afghan security officer. In Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City begins a strict lockdown to slow the spread of COVID-19 infections. In the United States, officials in Tennessee say 22 people have died from flooding after record-breaking rainfall on Saturday. And the U.S. Food and Drug Administration gives full approval to the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for use in people over the age of 16.
Now on the FDA's approval of the Pfizer vaccine, I'd like to bring in physician at Stanford Children's Hospital Health with Dr. Alok Patel. Dr. Patel, let's talk about, first of all, what does this FDA approval actually mean for all of us right now?
Well, good morning, Kara. What this basically means is that with 6 months of safety data, now remember, emergency use authorization only requires a couple months, that the vaccine is still safe, is still effective, and now it just opens the door for more universities, businesses, corporations, even local and state governments to mandate the vaccine. And what this means is that people out there who wanted to wait and see or wanted to see more safety data got exactly what they wanted this morning. So this is all optimistic news.
So how much of a difference then, with that in mind, do you think this is going to make for people that were very hesitant about getting the vaccine? Is this a sign to them that, look, we've done the research, it's safe, get it?
Totally, Kara. So based anecdotally, with how many patients, people messaging me on Instagram, friends and family who are talking about wanting to see more safety data, this is huge for them. This is game changing. If I go just directly off numbers, we've all heard about those survey numbers coming from Kaiser saying about 3 in 10 unvaccinated Americans said they wanted to see more data. They wanted to see a full FDA approval. If we look at 3 in 10, that's 30%. 90 million eligible Americans have not yet gotten vaccinated. So that's potentially a difference of tens of millions of people. So that is big. Hopefully the other group of people who are vaccine hesitant will see this and say, okay, that is 6 months of safety data. It's still over 90% efficacious. And this is data coming in from multiple continents. This is safe. This is work. I'm going to go and get it.
All right. So then what do you think? How can this help stop the spread of the Delta variant that so many of us are so concerned about right now?
Well, I think this is going to do 3 things. Number 1, like we just mentioned, it's going to hopefully address some of the concerns that the vaccine hesitant have. Number 2, there's going to be more mandates in place. So hopefully people, even if they weren't thinking about it before or they were hesitant, will stop now to ask their doctors, ask a trusted source. This is mandated at my work. Do I need to get this? And number 3, Kira, is that a full FDA approval allows for some of those off-label uses, such as boosters. And so these are 3 different approaches here. But remember, there's still a large population who is not getting vaccinated for other reasons. So this does not mean that we have to step the foot off the gas pedal in terms of targeted messaging to certain groups and addressing misinformation. That still has to happen.
All right. So you just mentioned the booster shots. What does this mean for that?
Well, this means that, the Pfizer booster shot, so that's the 3rd shot for Pfizer, can likely get approval now because of the full FDA approval for Pfizer. Moderna is still going to need a little bit more time. That's supposed to get full FDA approval in a couple of weeks. Johnson & Johnson, we haven't seen yet. So this could potentially start happening as of September 20th, just kind of based on the rough estimate about when the boosters can go for those people who got the Pfizer shot. And polls are also showing that a large percentage of Americans who have been vaccinated are in favor of a booster shot. But we've been talking about this since the first day the vaccines rolled out. If we just are focusing on people who are fully vaccinated getting a booster shot, and we're not totally addressing equity, we're not out of this pandemic yet. So while this is good news, it's not a complete end in sight.
All right. So it's not a complete end, but on a larger scale, in any way, shape or form, can you give a guess to what this could do for the global fight to just eradicate COVID?
Well, we have a ways to go in terms of the global fight, because I'm not sure, and I don't think anyone is, that the FDA approval is really going to be able to address some of the inequities we're seeing globally. A lot of that has to do with distribution of the vaccines and also the infrastructure to give them out on the ground level in some of these lower income countries. But that needs to be top and center priority. I think the latest statistics show that less than 2% of people in low income countries have gotten at least one shot. They're not waiting for full FDA approval. They said earlier this year that they wanted the vaccine. So that is a separate thing that we need to address right now. But for anyone out there who is still hesitant and says, I need more data, and you don't trust the FDA, you don't trust the same governing body that has approved over 1,000 medications here in the United States. And so there's two groups of people out there. There's a vaccine hesitant who I hope this message really reaches and they see the safety data and they trust it. But then there's other people out there who say, I don't believe in the vaccines. I don't believe in COVID. And that's a whole separate issue.
Right. All right, Dr. Alok Patel, thank you so much. And I'm getting word now that the FDA is going to hold a briefing this morning around 11 a.m. Eastern. I know you'll be monitoring that. We'll also bring it to you live as soon as it happens.
Officials here in Tokyo are having to take significant new measures to contain a surge in coronavirus cases just as the capital gets set to kick off the Paralympics. Health authorities in Tokyo reported more than 2,400 new infections on Monday. That's down about 500 from the same day last week. But the daily average is up nearly 10% from the week before. The recent spike is overwhelming the medical system. Nearly 40,000 people with COVID-19 are isolating at home in Tokyo. Many of them are waiting to be accepted at a hospital. To help people cope, officials opened up the first of what they call oxygen stations in Shibuya. The facility has 130 beds and will operate around the clock. It's meant to treat patients with mild symptoms. Officials are preparing to open 2 more similar facilities in the capital for a total of 400 beds. Tokyo Governor Koike Yuriko says there's still a significant shortage of doctors and medical workers. She's calling for more cooperation between the government and hospitals to help treat COVID-19 patients. And as the capital gears up to host the Paralympics from Tuesday, athletes are making their final preparations. The games will continue through September 5th. A record number of around 4,400 Paralympians are gathering from about 160 countries and territories. They'll compete for medals in 22 sports. 6 athletes showed their enthusiasm at a news conference. Italian wheelchair fencer Beatrice Vio won a gold medal in the 2016 Rio Games. She said it's important to show it's possible to achieve your dreams even without hands or legs.
We just need to tell to everyone how amazing is Paralympic sport and how many things you can do through the sport and how much you can be happy through sport.
Nasu Shiobara City, north of Tokyo, is supporting the Austrian team. Children there held an online event to cheer on swimmer Andreas Onea.
Everyone was nervous, but we could enjoy singing. So I think we could really express our feelings to him.
A refugee team of 6 athletes is set to compete. They left their home countries due to conflict and persecution.
We are trying to represent the other, the refugees, and also we hope to change the vision and mindset about, the refugee and asylum seeker around the world.
Now, officials announced on Monday 13 more people involved with the Paralympics have been infected with the coronavirus. This brings the number of infections related to the Games to 144. Tokyo Governor Koike held talks with International Paralympic Committee President Andrew Parsons. They agreed to take thorough measures to prevent the spread among athletes and officials. A Japanese Self-Defense Forces aircraft is on the way to Kabul, Afghanistan, to get citizens and local embassy workers out of the country. The plane left an airport near Tokyo on Monday evening. Japan's top government spokesperson said it's the first of 3 planes that'll head to Afghanistan for the evacuation.
The government will dispatch SDF units, including a C-130 transport aircraft, for the swift and safe evacuation of those who wish to leave Afghanistan. The operation will start as soon as we can make the necessary arrangements.
Kato said the U.S. military is in control of air traffic around Kabul airport, and the Taliban are not interfering with evacuations involving foreign nationals. He noted the operation is meant for Japanese citizens and local embassy staff, but officials are not sure if they can all get to the airport. He did not say how many people Japan expects to airlift. Now, confusion continues around the airport in Kabul. Thousands of Afghans and foreigners have crowded the airport since the Taliban took control of the capital, desperate to get a flight out of the country. Protecting security around the airport is a major problem. A firefight erupted there early Monday, leaving one Afghan security guard dead and 3 people injured. It's unclear who opened fire first. Germany's military said its forces and U.S. soldiers were involved in the clash. The U.S. Embassy in Kabul has issued an alert advising Americans to steer clear of the airport until they receive new instructions. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has met with Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. They reaffirmed cooperation on security, the economy, and other areas to counter China's assertiveness in the South China Sea. Harris was in Singapore Monday on the first leg of her tour of Southeast Asia, which will also take her to Vietnam. The White House says the two discussed security and economic cooperation in the Indo-Pacific and agreed to work together to build supply chains that don't rely on China. Speaking at a joint news conference, Harris said she wanted to reaffirm Washington's enduring relationship with Singapore and Southeast Asia and reinforce a shared vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific region. Lee said he values the United States renewing ties with its friends and partners in the region, especially his country. The administration of U.S. President Joe Biden has been sending senior officials to the region since last month to show American commitment there. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen has been inoculated with a locally made coronavirus vaccine, hoping to highlight its safety and efficacy. The recombinant protein vaccine was developed by Medison Vaccine Biologics. It's been approved for emergency use in people aged 20 and older starting Monday. Opposition party members have voiced doubts about the vaccine because it was authorized before the treatment has undergone the final phase of clinical trials. Tsai posted a video clip of herself being vaccinated on social media. As of last weekend, about 40% of people in Taiwan had gotten at least one shot. Around 3% had received a second. Authorities are hoping to accelerate the pace of inoculations by developing the homegrown vaccine and procuring more doses from overseas. The highly contagious Delta variant is not making much headway in Taiwan. The number of new cases from the variant has stayed in the single digits most days this month. The figure excludes infections in people arriving from overseas. Authorities plan to increase the maximum number of people allowed to gather indoors to 80, up from 50 from Tuesday. The maximum allowed to gather outdoors will be tripled to 300. Moving now to the weather. Deadly flooding in parts of the United States has caused destruction over the weekend. Our meteorologist John Snow has the details in our World Weather Report.
Hello. Over the weekend, portions of Tennessee saw some severe flooding causing some major problems in the state. Take a look at this video that's coming out of the area where record-breaking rain washed away homes and smaller roads in Middle Tennessee during the weekend. At least 22 people have died and almost 50 missing. People in the state are advised to stay away from roads and prepare emergency survival kits, and also really just waiting for the waters to recede. It looks like we're going to see a break in the rainfall for that region, but toward the north and east, what Henri is doing is bringing lots of rain to the New England states as we go through today on Monday. So be prepared for this system to eventually roll out. High pressure will then push back some moisture back into the coastal areas of the United States toward the eastern side. Thunderstorms in New York, 18 in Winnipeg, and down to the south, heat with highs in the mid-30s. Across the western areas of Japan and also into North and South Korea, we do have another tropical system interacting with a stationary front that's going to bring some significant rainfall. Places like Kyushu could see 150 millimeters of rain or so as we go into the day on Tuesday. So be on the lookout for some of the heavy rain to roll through. Flash flooding is possible with this. You want to be on the lookout for that.